If you think aging is a slow, harmless process, you're already losing control of your body because right now something inside you is accelerating the breakdown of your cells at a speed you cannot see or feel. This isn't theory, it's happening in real time. And for most people, it's happening faster than it should. Not because you are getting older, but because your body's most critical repair system is shutting down. The system that clears cellular waste, removes damaged cells, and resets your biology every day is slowing without you noticing. And when that happens, everything shifts. Energy drops, inflammation rises, your metabolism slows, your risk of chronic disease increases. You think you're aging, but what is really happening is this. You are accumulating damage faster than your body can remove it. And here's the part most people never hear. One daily habit can shut this entire system down, and you are likely repeating it every single day. In the next few minutes, you're going to see what that habit is, how it affects cellular aging, inflammation, and longevity, and how small changes can begin restoring your body's repair process faster than you expect. Because this isn't about time. It's about whether your body is still capable of protecting itself or slowly losing that ability without you realizing it. Hello, I'm Dr. Nathaniel Li. I'm an emergency medicine physician and a medical researcher. After more than 30 years of studying how the body protects and heals itself and witnessing patients struggle with chronic diseases that I now believe, in many cases, could be treated more easily than we've been taught, I began to question whether we've been missing something fundamental about the body's natural ability to heal. And what I discovered completely changed the way I think about disease today truly. After years of clinical observation, Dr. Nathaniel Li noticed something most people never question: the number on your driver's license has almost nothing to do with how fast your body is actually aging. You've been taught to measure your life in years, to assume that turning 40, 50, or 60 automatically means decline. But what if that entire model is wrong? What if two people the same age could have bodies aging at completely different speeds, one quietly breaking down, the other actively repairing itself every single day? This is the difference between chronological age and biological age, and it changes everything. Chronological age is just time. It moves forward no matter what you do. But biological age is something else entirely. It's a reflection of what is happening inside your cells right now, at this exact moment. It's influenced by your metabolism, your inflammation levels, your cellular repair system, and the efficiency of how your body removes damage. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your biological age can be decades older than your actual age, and you would have no idea until the symptoms begin to appear. Low energy, brain fog, joint stiffness, poor sleep. These aren't random. They are early signals that your internal systems are falling behind. In my own clinical experience, I've seen patients in their 30s with the cellular profile of someone in their 50s and others in their 60s with remarkably resilient, younger biological markers. So the real question isn't how old are you? It's how fast are you aging right now? Because aging is not something that suddenly happens one day. It is a process unfolding continuously, shaped by thousands of small decisions: what you eat, how often you eat, how well you sleep, and how effectively your body can recover. And most of those decisions are happening on autopilot. You are either supporting your body's repair systems or quietly accelerating their failure. But to understand why this happens, we need to look at what's quietly accumulating beneath the surface. Dr. Nathaniel Li describes it as a silent takeover happening inside your body. Not dramatic, not sudden, but relentless. Imagine your body as a massive, highly organized city. Every day, billions of workers, your cells, show up to do their jobs. Some repair tissue, some produce energy, others defend against infection. And in a healthy system, when a worker becomes damaged or too old to function properly, there's a built-in process. They are removed and replaced. The system stays clean, efficient, and stable. But what happens when that removal system starts to fail? Those old damaged workers don't leave. They stay. And worse, they begin to disrupt everything around them. In biological terms, these are called senescent cells. But in clinical conversations, Dr. Nathaniel Li often refers to them more directly zombie cells, because that's exactly how they behave. They are not dead, but they are no longer alive in any meaningful way. They don't divide. They don't contribute. Yet they refuse to die. And instead of staying quiet, they release a toxic mix of inflammatory signals known as the senescence-associated secretory phenotype, or SASP. This is where the real damage begins. These inflammatory proteins spread outward, affecting neighboring healthy cells, degrading collagen, interfering with normal signaling, and gradually turning a functional cellular environment into a compromised one. You don't feel it immediately. There's no sharp pain, no sudden warning, but over time, the effects compound. Energy production becomes less efficient, tissues lose elasticity, blood vessels stiffen, and the risk of disease begins to rise not suddenly, but steadily. This is the hidden engine behind what we call aging, and it doesn't stop there. Research has now linked the accumulation of these zombie cells and their inflammatory output to nearly every major age-related condition: cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, osteoarthritis, and even certain forms of cancer. When enough of these cells build up, they don't just sit in isolation. They create an environment where damage spreads faster than it can be repaired. It's not just that your body is aging, it's that it's being pushed in that direction from the inside. And here's the part that should stop you for a moment. This process doesn't require decades to begin. It can accelerate quietly in response to chronic stress, poor diet, lack of sleep, and metabolic imbalance. In other words, it's not just about how long you've lived, it's about how your cells have been treated along the way. Once you understand that, aging stops looking like a mystery and starts looking like a system under pressure. And once you see how these cells behave, one question becomes impossible to ignore: can they be removed? According to Dr. Nathaniel Li, your body already knows how to fix this problem. That's the part most people never hear. Your body is not broken. It's just not being activated the right way. For decades, the conversation around aging has focused on fighting decline with external solutions, supplements, medications, expensive interventions. But what if the real solution isn't about adding something new, but reactivating something that has always been there? Inside your body exists a highly sophisticated system designed to identify and remove these dysfunctional senescent zombie cells. The scientific term for this process is senolysis, the selective clearing of damaged cells without harming the healthy ones around them. And while pharmaceutical versions of senolytics are still being studied, Dr. Nathaniel Li emphasizes a critical point. The biological pathways that drive this process can be influenced by everyday choices, especially through diet and metabolic signaling. This is where the story shifts, because once you understand that your body has a built-in cleanup system, the question is no longer, is aging inevitable? But rather, why isn't this system working as efficiently as it should? And the answer is surprisingly simple. Modern lifestyles, constant eating, highly processed foods, poor sleep, chronic stress create conditions where these repair mechanisms are suppressed. The body isn't failing, it's being blocked. You are not lacking the tools, you are unintentionally turning them off. And when those switches are off, cellular waste accumulates, inflammation rises, and the aging process accelerates. But when those same pathways are reactivated, the opposite begins to happen. Damaged components are broken down and recycled. Cellular environments become cleaner. Signals normalize. Function improves. Not overnight, not magically, but measurably, biologically, and consistently. This is not about reversing time. It's about restoring balance at the cellular level. And once that balance begins to return, the body does what it was always designed to do: repair, adapt, and protect itself. The real key lies in understanding which biological switches control this entire process. Dr. Nathaniel Li breaks this down into 4 core systems that quietly determine how fast you age. Not in theory, not in vague terms, but in measurable biological processes that are either working for you right now or actively working against you. The first system is autophagy, often described as your body's internal recycling program. Inside every cell, there are damaged proteins, worn-out components, and metabolic waste that need to be broken down and cleared. When autophagy is active, your cells stay clean, efficient, and resilient. But here's the part most people never realize: every time you constantly eat, especially high sugar, high glycemic foods, you are suppressing this entire process. Insulin spikes signal the body to focus on storage, not repair. the cleanup system shuts down, debris accumulates, and over time, that buildup contributes directly to aging at the cellular level. You're not just feeding your body, you're deciding whether it repairs itself or not. The second system is NAD+, a molecule that functions as a critical fuel source for your cell's repair and energy production system. NAD+ activates enzymes known as sirtuins, which are directly involved in DNA repair, mitochondrial function, and longevity pathways. But as Dr. Nathaniel Li points out, NAD+ levels naturally decline with age, often by as much as 50% between midlife and older age. When that happens, your cells don't just slow down, they lose the ability to maintain themselves. Energy drops, repair mechanisms weaken, and the aging process accelerates in a way that feels gradual but is biologically significant. The third system involves telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of your chromosome. Every time a cell divides, these caps shorten slightly. When they become too short, the cell can no longer function properly and either enters senescence or dies. Shortened telomeres are one of the clearest indicators of accelerated biological aging. But what makes this system powerful is that it is not entirely fixed. Enzymes like telomerase can help stabilize or slow this shortening, and specific nutrients and lifestyle factors influence how quickly that decline occurs. In other words, your cellular clock is not just ticking, it's responding to how you live. The fourth system is chronic inflammation, often referred to as inflammaging. Unlike the acute inflammation that helps your body heal from injury, this is a low-grade, persistent state of immune activation that slowly damages tissues over time. It disrupts hormonal signaling, impairs metabolic function, and creates an internal environment where disease can develop more easily. This is the background noise of aging, quiet, constant, and incredibly destructive if left unchecked. And here's where it all comes together. These four systems do not operate independently. They are interconnected, influencing one another in ways that amplify either health or decline. When autophagy slows, waste accumulates. When NAD+ drops, repair weakens. When telomeres shorten, cells lose function. When inflammation rises, everything becomes less efficient. You are not dealing with one problem, you are dealing with a network. And once that network shifts in the wrong direction, the effects don't stay subtle for long. They begin to surface in ways you can feel fatigue, stiffness, slower recovery, and in ways science can now clearly measure through biomarkers, imaging, and clinical outcomes. And when these systems begin to fail, the effects don't stay hidden, they show up in ways science can now measure. What makes Dr. Nathaniel Li's approach compelling is that it doesn't rely on theory, it's grounded in real data. Not trends, not opinions, but controlled human studies that measure what is actually happening inside the body at the cellular level. At Harvard Medical School, researchers followed more than 2,500 adults and analyzed the relationship between dietary polyphenol intake and telomere length using quantitative PCR. What they found was striking. Individuals with the highest intake of polyphenols had telomeres biologically comparable to people several years younger, not by guesswork, but by measurable genetic markers tied directly to aging. At the University of California, San Francisco, scientists conducted a controlled dietary intervention where participants consumed approximately 250 milligrams of EGCG daily, the active compound in green tea. Within weeks, there was a measurable reduction in senescent cell burden in adipose tissue, tracked through biomarkers like P16 and P21. This wasn't subjective improvement, it was a visible shift in the biology of aging itself. At the National Institutes of Health, in collaboration with Washington University and St. Louis, researchers studied the effects of NMN supplementation in human subjects. After just 10 weeks, participants showed increased NAD+ biosynthesis, improved insulin sensitivity, and enhanced muscle performance, changes that researchers described as consistent with a partial reversal of certain aging-related processes. These are not minor effects, they point to the body's capacity to regain function when the right pathways are supported. Meanwhile, at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, a long-term study on spermidine supplementation revealed improvements in autophagy markers, memory performance, and arterial elasticity, suggesting that cellular cleanup processes can influence not just longevity, but quality of life. These findings reinforce a pattern: when the underlying systems are supported, the body responds. But this is where nuance matters, and where Dr. Nathaniel Li is careful to draw a line between possibility and exaggeration. Not every study shows identical results. Not every individual responds the same way. Factors like dosage, consistency, metabolic health, and genetic variability all influence outcomes. Some effects are modest, others more pronounced, and many require sustained application over time. This is not a shortcut. It's a biological process that responds to patterns, not one-time actions. And perhaps most importantly, much of this research points to whole food interventions rather than isolated compounds. The matrix of nutrients, enzymes, and cofactors found in real food often produces different effects than supplements alone. So the takeaway isn't that there's a single miracle solution, it's that there is a consistent direction the science is pointing toward. A direction that aligns with how the body naturally repairs, regulates, and protects itself when given the right condition. But data alone isn't enough. The real question is, how do you apply this in everyday life? This is where Dr. Nathaniel Li's framework becomes practical. Everything you've heard so far only matters if it changes what you do next. Because the difference between understanding aging and actually influencing it comes down to one thing: daily execution. Not extreme diets, not expensive treatments, but a consistent pattern of signals you send to your body through food, timing, and metabolic rhythm. This is a structured 7-day protocol designed to activate autophagy, support NAD+ production, stabilize telomeres, and reduce chronic inflammation all at the same time. It's not random. Every element is selected based on its ability to interact with the 4 systems you just learned. And when combined, the effect is not additive, it's synergistic. The goal is simple: shift your body from a state of accumulation to a state of repair. And it starts with what you consume and when you consume it. First, green tea 2 to 3 cups per day. Consume before noon. This provides approximately 150 to 300 milligrams of EGCG, a compound shown to reduce senescent cell burden and support autophagy pathways. But timing matters. Consuming it later in the day can disrupt sleep, and poor sleep directly weakens cellular repair. A small amount of lemon juice can significantly improve absorption. Second, broccoli sprouts about half a cup daily, roughly 60 to 80 grams. These contain extremely high levels of sulforaphane, a compound that activates the NRF2 pathway, one of the body's most important antioxidant defense systems. But preparation matters. High heat destroys the enzyme required to activate sulforaphane, so they should be eaten raw or lightly steamed. Third, blueberries 1 cup per day, around 150 grams. Rich in polyphenols like pterostilbene and resveratrol, they support DNA repair and activate sirtuin pathways linked to longevity. Absorption matters. Pairing them with a healthy fat source like walnuts improves bioavailability significantly. Fourth, edamame or soybeans half a cup daily, about 85 grams. These provide precursors for NAD+, supporting energy production and cellular repair. They also contain spermidine, which contributes to autophagy activation. Consistency matters. The effect builds over time, not in a single serving. Fifth, extra virgin olive oil 2 tablespoons per day, ideally consumed with vegetables. It contains oleocanthal and oleic acid, compounds that help regulate inflammatory pathways and reduce cellular stress. Quality matters. Low-grade oils do not produce the same effect. Sixth, dark chocolate about 1 ounce per day, at least 85% cacao. This provides flavonoids like epicatechin, which support mitochondrial function and vascular health. Moderation matters. Excess sugar cancels the benefit. Seventh, walnuts 1 small handful per day, approximately 30 grams. They are a key source of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, which support telomere stability and reduce inflammatory signaling. Combination matters. When paired with blueberries, their effect increases significantly. And finally, the timing rule: an overnight fasting window of 12 to 14 hours. This is what amplifies everything else. When insulin levels drop, autophagy turns on. Your body shifts into repair mode, clearing damaged components and restoring balance at the cellular level. But as simple as this protocol sounds, most people unknowingly reduce its effectiveness. In clinical practice, Dr. Nathaniel Li emphasizes that small adjustments can make a significant difference, not by changing everything at once, but by refining how the system works together. Because once the right foods are in place, the next level of impact comes from how you combine them, when you consume them, and how you measure progress. One of the simplest but most overlooked strategies is pairing nutrients correctly. For example, when you eat blueberries with walnut, the healthy fats enhance the absorption of polyphenols by up to several times, turning a good choice into a biologically effective one. Timing also plays a critical role. Consuming green tea earlier in the day supports metabolic activity without interfering with sleep, while a consistent overnight fasting window allows autophagy to activate at its peak. You're not just feeding your body, you're aligning with its internal clock. And perhaps most important, you need to track the right signals. Most people look at the scale, but early biological improvements show up elsewhere: better sleep quality, reduced joint stiffness, more stable energy throughout the day. These are the real indicators that your cellular environment is shifting, and sometimes it's not what you're doing right, but what you're doing wrong that matters most. Dr. Nathaniel Li often sees patients making the same critical mistakes, not because they don't care about their health, but because they're following advice that sounds right, but quietly works against them. The first mistake is relying on bottled or processed health drinks, especially green tea beverages. These are often heat-treated and loaded with added sugars, which dramatically reduce active compounds like EGCG while spiking insulin, effectively shutting down the very autophagy process you're trying to activate. The second mistake is overcooking nutrient-dense foods, particularly broccoli sprouts. High heat destroys the enzyme myrosinase, which is essential for converting compounds into active sulforaphane. What looks like a healthy choice becomes biologically inactive. The third mistake is expecting immediate results and quitting too early. Many people try a protocol for a day or two, feel no difference, and stop, not realizing that the real cellular changes begin around days 3 to 5 and compound from there. And the fourth mistake is over-relying on supplements instead of whole foods. While supplements can be useful, they often lack the complex nutrient interactions found in real food, which are critical for absorption and effectiveness. A capsule may contain the compound, but not the context your body needs to use it properly. These mistakes don't just slow progress, they can completely cancel out the benefits of everything else you're doing. And that's why attention to detail matters. Avoiding these isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. At its core, aging is not a fixed destiny. It is a continuous conversation between your body and the environment you create for it every single day. Every choice you make, what you eat, when you eat, how you sleep, how you recover, sends signals that either support your body's ability to repair itself or quietly push it toward decline. And for most people, that conversation has been happening unconsciously, shaped by habits that were never designed to protect long-term health. But once you understand the systems behind it, autophagy, NAD+, telomere stability, inflammation, you begin to see that aging is not random. It is responsive. It adapts to what you repeatedly do. This is not about chasing perfection or trying to reverse time overnight. It's about shifting direction. It's about creating conditions where your body can do what it was always designed to do: repair damage, restore balance, and maintain function for as long as possible. In my experience, the people who age the best are not those with perfect genetics or access to advanced treatments. They are the ones who consistently support the systems that keep their biology resilient. And that consistency doesn't come from doing everything at once, it comes from doing the right things, repeatedly, over time. The science is clear, the mechanisms are understood, and the tools are already within your reach. The only question left is whether you will use them. As Dr. Nathaniel Li often reminds his patients, every meal, every habit, every decision is a signal. And starting today, you can choose to send a completely different one